positive news in the war on terror, that even when things with the administration seem dicey every day, especially with foreign policy, our special forces and our military, when they're able to do their job and be unleashed, are able to take out systematically these terrorist leaders.
The leader was the actual replacement for al-Baghdadi. So this was the #1 ISIS terrorist, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi.
This guy was killed in Idlib, which is the area, the province that's held by our allies, by the Syrian Democratic Forces. It's their area. So he was hiding in an area that really is under the control of Syrian Democratic Forces and where we have U.S. forces stationed.
Located by our special forces and intelligence. They knew exactly where he was. He was cornered in a building, and he decided to blow himself up rather than be taken by the U.S. Special Forces.
Kudos to our soldiers who did an excellent job. They went in with a loudspeaker and an Arabic translator telling women and children to evacuate. They did all they could to minimize civilian casualties. It appears the 10 civilians that were killed, it was 6 women, 4 children, were actually killed by the terrorist himself as he blew himself up.
They knew that the building he was in, he might not have known. He might have thought he was going to cause a lot more destruction with his suicide vest. But instead, they knew enough about the building to know that he likely did not have enough explosives strapped to him to take out the whole building.
Which means the intel was
And they were able to evacuate most of the area.
What goes in? I mean, obviously don't disclose anything, but what goes into this? What are they doing? I mean, it's a combination of intelligence, on ground, off in a central command center. How does it all work?
They coordinate heavily. Special forces always do with our intelligence people, and we have intelligence operatives on the ground in Syria that are both planted by the U.S. and also Syrian assets as well there. So there's a lot of coordination and planning. And then anytime you have an operation like this, your special forces guy, they do what we used to call in the military rock drills. They actually go through and they will set up a mock building or mock encampment, and they will practice. This is how we will go in. This will be our points of entry. If we need to escape, this is our points of exit. They go in and they actually physically rehearse this before they do it.
As our troops approach to capture the terrorist, in a final act of desperate cowardice, he, with no regard to the lives of his own family or others in the building, he chose to blow himself up, not just to the vest, but to blow up that 3rd floor, rather than face justice for the crimes he has committed, taking several members of his family with him, just as his predecessor did.
Brandon on Facebook asked a very interesting question. He said, I don't understand why these people, he's talking about the terrorists, chose to blow themselves up. Why is that their choice? And there's a theological reason for this, unfortunately, within Islam. You know, in Christianity, God so loved mankind that he sent his own son to die for us. In Islam, there's this reverse idea of, so they look at this as their way to heaven.
Yeah.
Martyrdom.
Martyrdom. You know, that is the highest human achievement, to be a martyr for Islam. And so they see that, and they see a great reward for doing that. And quite frankly, also in the Middle East, it's just a much more violent culture. They've seen a lot of violence. They some of them commit a lot of violence. And so blowing yourself up and blowing up your children and your wife or your wives is not seen as a bad thing by some of these radical Islamic terrorists.
ISIS was trying to reconstitute. While the Trump administration effectively destroyed the caliphate, there were still actors trying to reconstitute under the ISIS banner in both Syria and North Africa. Their leader is now dead. So what it's showing to these terrorist groups is that we are still watching you, and we can take you out before you have a chance to become a Baghdadi, before you have a chance to create a mini caliphate and start taking actual property, because that's what ISIS is about. ISIS is not al-Qaeda hiding in the caves. ISIS, their whole thing is, we want a caliphate, we want to take land, we want to take cities, we want to run them, we want to be in charge.
I think the important thing and the important message, and this would be the message to the entire world, we may have political discourse here that is aggressive and people are on all sides of the issues, but when it comes to protecting the interests, and by the way, you take out ISIS because not only is it destabilizing to the Middle East, it is destabilizing to the world. I mean, ISIS terrorists have done acts in the United States. We took out the #1 guy under the last president, and then we took out the #1 guy on the current president. Republican, Democrat, in that sense, it didn't matter because we had the intelligence, we had the capability. So I want to say a thank you to everyone serving that was able to see this.